They said a man like him could have any woman he wanted, and they were right. But he didn't want just any woman. The billionaire's son who rejected the city's finest found himself falling for someone no one expected, a poor rural girl with dreams bigger than her world. She had no diamonds, no fame, no fortune, only honesty, kindness, and a love that money could never buy.
Tristan Hale had everything a man could ask for: money, status, power. He was the heir to one of New York's largest business empires, the Hale Group. His name opened doors, and his signature moved millions. But for all that wealth, there was one thing missing in his life: peace. He'd been raised to believe success was everything, that love was a distraction, and marriage was just another business deal. So when his parents arranged introductions with the daughters of CEOs, models, and politicians, Tristan smiled politely, played along, and felt nothing. He didn't want a woman who wanted the Hale name. He wanted someone who wanted him. But in his world, that kind of love didn't exist. Then one morning, his father called him into his office. The company's foundation, the charitable arm of their empire, was sending a team to eastern Ohio, a small town miles away from the city lights, where a crumbling school needed rebuilding. "Go," his father said. "Lead the project. Do something useful for once." Tristan didn't argue. Maybe a break from New York was exactly what he needed. He arrived in Ohio expecting dust, boredom, and obligation. Instead, he found something else entirely. The project site buzzed with volunteers, ordinary people, faces sunburned and hands calloused, smiling as they worked. And among them was her, Lily Adams, a young woman with paint on her shirt, laughter in her voice, and a heart that seemed to shine through everything she did. She wasn't like anyone Tristan had ever met. She didn't look at him the way others did. When he introduced himself, she just smiled and said, "Well, Mr. Hale, if you're here to work, grab a hammer." That simple line, playful, fearless, disarmed him completely. Days passed, and Tristan found excuses to talk to her, to help her carry supplies, to listen to her stories about the town, about the children she volunteered for, about life beyond luxury. And for the first time in years, he felt seen. He began waking early, eager to get to the site, not because of duty, but because of her. One afternoon, as they painted the last wall together, Lily turned to him and said, "You don't talk like the others." Tristan smiled. "Maybe I'm not like the others." She laughed softly. "No, I don't think you are." And just like that, something changed. Something quiet, but real. He didn't know it then, but that small-town girl with paint on her hands was about to turn his whole world upside down. And for the first time in a long time, Tristan Hale wasn't afraid. He was alive.
The days in eastern Ohio moved slower than the city. No constant ringing phones, no flashing lights, just sunlight, laughter, and the sound of hammers echoing through the open air. For Tristan Hale, it was a different world, and at the center of it was Lily Adams. She was unlike anyone he'd ever known. While others cared about wealth or titles, Lily cared about people. She'd volunteer for long hours, share her lunch with kids who had nothing, and still smile, as if she owned the whole sky. Tristan found himself watching her, not in the way men in his world watched women, but with the quiet awe of someone seeing something rare. One afternoon, as they sat under the old oak tree, Lily asked, "So, Mr. Hale, what's it like being you?" He laughed softly. "Exhausting." "Exhausting?" she teased. "Most people would trade lives with you in a heartbeat." "Then they'd be disappointed." Having everything doesn't mean you feel everything. Lily tilted her head. What do you mean? He hesitated, searching for words. I mean, you can own buildings, cars, companies, but still wake up feeling empty. I don't even know who I am outside my family's name. Lily was quiet for a moment, then said gently, Maybe you're not supposed to own who you are, Tristan. Maybe you're supposed to find it. Her words struck something deep inside him, something he didn't even realize had been waiting to be heard. After that day, they grew closer. They worked side by side, laughed over small things, and sometimes simply sat in silence that felt safe. He learned that Lily had dreams, to finish college, to open a small art program for underprivileged kids. But money was tight, and she had learned to live on little. He admired that. She didn't complain, she didn't chase after more. She just made the best of what she had, and somehow made everyone around her feel rich. One evening, after everyone had left the site, Tristan and Lily stayed behind to finish painting a mural. It was a tree, bright and full of colors, with children's handprints forming the leaves. As the sun dipped below the horizon, he looked at her, paint on her cheek, hair tousled, eyes sparkling. He said quietly, You make this place feel alive. She smiled. It's not the paint, Tristan. It's the people. He chuckled. Then I've been around the wrong people. Lily laughed softly and handed him a brush. Then paint with me. Maybe you'll start seeing life in color again. And he did. For the first time in years, Tristan Hale smiled, not for a photograph, not for an investor, but for himself. That night, as he lay in his small guest room, he couldn't sleep. His mind was full of her voice, her kindness, her simplicity. He realized something terrifying and beautiful at once. He was falling for her. But in the back of his mind, he knew love like this didn't come without consequences. He was a Hale. She was a small-town girl. Their worlds weren't meant to collide. Still, he couldn't shake the feeling that maybe, this time, he'd found something worth risking everything for.
The following weeks passed like a dream. The school project was coming together beautifully, and so were they. Every morning, Tristan Hale arrived before sunrise, sleeves rolled up, ready to work. Not because he had to, but because he wanted to. Because she would be there. Lily Adams. Her laughter had become the music of his days. Her presence, the peace his heart had never known. They'd spend hours working side by side, painting walls, lifting supplies, sharing quiet jokes that made the long days feel short. It wasn't just friendship anymore. It was something softer, something that made the world brighter whenever she smiled. One afternoon, after a long day under the sun, they sat by the river that ran behind the project site. The water shimmered gold beneath the fading light. Lily skipped a small stone across the surface and said, "You ever wish you could just start over?" Tristan glanced at her. "Every day." She smiled faintly. "Funny, I thought people with money didn't think like that." He looked down at the water. "Money can't restart your soul, Lily. It can only distract it." She turned to him then, her expression soft. "You're different from what I expected." He laughed lightly. "And what did you expect?" "A spoiled billionaire," she said honestly. "Someone who'd show up for photos and leave when the cameras did." He smiled. "And now?" "Now, I see someone who's trying to remember how to live," she said quietly. Her words sank deep, wrapping around his heart like a promise. He watched her for a moment, the way the sunset painted her face, the way her hair caught the light. And before he could stop himself, he said softly, "You make me want to be better." Lily blushed, looking away. "Tristan!" He smiled gently. "You don't have to say anything." For a moment, they sat in silence, the kind that feels more real than words. Somewhere in that stillness, their hands brushed. She didn't pull away. And just like that, something unspoken passed between them. Something fragile, precious, and terrifying all at once. After that evening, they grew closer. They shared meals, stories, laughter, and glances that lingered a little longer than they should have. But even as their hearts bloomed, reality lingered in the background. Tristan's phone buzzed constantly, messages from New York, reminders of the world waiting for him. And Lily, she knew what it meant. One day, as they stood by the half-finished mural, she said softly, "When this project ends, you'll have to go back, won't you?" He hesitated. "Yes, but I'll come back." She smiled sadly. "Men like you don't come back to places like this, Tristan." He stepped closer, eyes steady. "Then I'll be the first." For a heartbeat, neither of them moved. The air between them felt charged, tender, unsure, but real. And just then, before either of them could say another word, a sudden summer rain began to fall, light and unexpected. They both laughed and ran for cover beneath the old oak tree, drenched and breathless. Lily brushed a strand of wet hair from her face, smiling, "Guess the sky wanted to cool us down." Tristan laughed, shaking his head. "Or maybe it just wanted an excuse to make you stay here a little longer." She looked at him, really looked at him, and saw it. The sincerity, the gentleness, the longing. And in that moment, she knew she was falling too. But love, no matter how beautiful, always comes with a storm. And theirs was just beyond the horizon.
The final week of the project came faster than either of them expected. The schools stood tall now, walls freshly painted, playgrounds rebuilt, laughter echoing across the yard. What began as a charity mission had turned into something far greater, for both of them. But behind every smile, there was the quiet ache of time running out. Tristan Hale had stopped checking his emails, ignoring the constant calls from New York. He didn't want to think about meetings or mergers. He only wanted this, these days, this girl. But life, as always, had its own plans. One morning, a black SUV pulled up near the construction site. The foundation's logo gleamed on its door, and from it stepped Daniel Brooks, the foundation's director and one of Tristan's oldest family advisors. He walked straight to Tristan, his tone firm but polite. "Mr. Hale, your father's been trying to reach you. The board's waiting for updates on your next appointment." Lily, who had been standing nearby, froze. She turned slowly toward Tristan. "Mr. Hale?" she repeated softly, confusion flickering in her eyes. Tristan swallowed hard. He hadn't meant for her to find out like this. Daniel, oblivious to the tension, continued. "The media's already praising the project. Your father's proud. He wants you back in New York by Friday for the gala." Lily stepped back, her expression a mix of surprise and disbelief. "You're that Hale?" she asked quietly. Tristan tried to explain. "Lily, I didn't lie. I just didn't want you to see me the way everyone else does." She blinked, hurt flashing across her face. "You let me believe you were just a volunteer, just someone trying to make a difference." "I was," he said, his voice low.
Everything I said, everything I felt, it was real. She looked away, trying to steady her voice. Tristan, people like you don't fall for people like me. Not when the real world comes calling. Lily, please. But she shook her head, taking a step back. Go home, Tristan. Go back to where you belong. Her words hit harder than any boardroom argument or business loss ever could. That night, Tristan stood alone by the mural they'd painted together, the one with the tree of handprints. He traced her painted mark with his fingers, his heart heavy. For the first time in his life, he didn't know what to do. Every decision he had ever made was logical, strategic. But this one? This was about the heart. He left Eastern Ohio the next morning, not because he wanted to, but because he had to. Because for now, it was the only way to prove to himself that his feelings were more than impulse. Back in New York, the lights were blinding again. The dinners, the meetings, the endless questions, they all felt hollow. But one question haunted him most. Had he just walked away from the only person who had ever seen him, truly seen him, for who he was? Days turned into weeks, and every time he looked at the skyline, he thought of her, of small-town laughter, of paint-splattered shirts, of the girl who made him believe in something real. He tried to bury himself in work, but nothing filled the silence she had left behind. Until one morning, as he stood in his office overlooking the city, he saw something on the news, a short segment about the Ohio school's grand reopening. The mural gleamed in the background, and there she was, Lily, smiling, standing with the children. Tristan felt his heart tighten. He realized that no amount of success could drown out what his soul already knew. He wasn't home in New York. He had left his heart in a small town in Eastern Ohio. And deep down, he knew, if he ever wanted to find peace again, he'd have to go back and fight for her.
Weeks passed, but peace never came. The city lights that once dazzled Tristan Hale now felt cold and distant. Every meeting, every gala, every polite conversation, it all blurred into nothingness. Because his mind, his heart, his everything was still in Eastern Ohio. One quiet evening, he stood by his penthouse window, staring down at the glowing skyline. And for the first time, he admitted the truth out loud. "She's the one," he whispered. He didn't need permission. He didn't need approval. He just needed her. The very next morning, Tristan packed a small bag, left his driver behind, and flew back to Eastern Ohio alone. When he arrived at the school, the place was alive again. Children running, teachers laughing. And then there she was, Lily Adams. She was standing near the mural they'd painted together, her hair tied back, her clothes flecked with paint once more. It felt like time had folded in on itself. When she saw him, she froze. "Tristan!" He nodded, his eyes soft. "I couldn't stay away." Lily took a breath, trying to stay composed. "You shouldn't be here. You belong in New York. Your world is there." He shook his head. "My world is wherever you are." She looked away, her voice trembling. "Tristan, be serious. Your family would never accept me, and I'm not sure I could live that kind of life." Tristan stepped closer. "You said once that people need to find who they are. I found mine when I met you." For a moment, she just stared at him, torn between love and fear. And then, in that small-town schoolyard, Tristan Hale did something he'd never done before. He let his heart lead. "Come with me," he said gently. "Not for the money, not for the name, just for us.
Come see the world that shaped me, so I can show them the woman who changed me." Lily hesitated, then slowly nodded, tears filling her eyes. And so, for the first time in her life, Lily Adams left the only town she'd ever known, not as someone chasing a dream, but as someone becoming one. When they arrived in New York, everything felt overwhelming. The noise, the skyscrapers, the cameras flashing as they entered the Hale mansion. Tristan's mother, elegant and poised, greeted them with a measured smile. His father barely looked up from his newspaper. Dinner that night was silent, too silent, until his mother finally spoke. "So, this is the woman you've been hiding from us?" Tristan didn't flinch. "I wasn't hiding her. I was protecting her." His father set down his cup. "Tristan, you're a Hale. You can't just bring home someone who doesn't understand our world." Tristan's jaw tightened. "Maybe it's our world that needs to change." Lily sat quietly, her hands trembling under the table. She felt out of place. The crystal glasses, the servants, the watchful eyes. But when she glanced at Tristan, he gave her a small, reassuring nod. The next morning, she joined Tristan's mother for tea on the balcony. There was tension, yes, but also curiosity. "You really love my son, don't you?" his mother asked. She met her eyes. "I do, but not for what he has. I love the part of him that listens, the part that still believes in good." Something softened in the older woman's face. And over the next few days, Lily's kindness began to ripple through that house. The staff smiled more, the halls felt warmer, even Tristan's father seemed quieter during breakfast. One night, as Tristan walked Lily through the gardens, he took her hand and said softly, "They may not understand yet, but they'll see. I promise. They'll see." Lily smiled. "Even if they don't, I see you, and that's enough." He looked at her then, his heart full. For the first time, he didn't feel like the billionaire's son or the business heir. He just felt human, seen, known, and loved. But the world doesn't change overnight. And soon whispers began to spread, from investors, from socialites, from the media. The question everyone seemed to be asking was the same. Who is Lily Adams, and what does she really want from Tristan Hale? And though love had brought them this far, it was about to be tested like never before.
The world was watching. Rumors had spread through every magazine, every social circle, every whispering hallway in the city. The billionaire's son and the small-town girl. People called it a scandal. They called her unfit, undeserving. But what they didn't see, what they couldn't see, was the quiet strength of a love that refused to break. Through it all, Lily stood tall. She didn't fight the press. She didn't run from the cameras. She simply smiled. The same genuine smile that had changed Tristan's life in that small Ohio town. At first, Tristan's father remained unmoved. He avoided dinner conversations, buried himself in meetings, and dismissed his son's choices as another passing phase. But then, one evening, as Tristan was preparing to leave for another charity event, his father stopped him in the hall. "I saw the papers," he said quietly. "They're saying some ugly things about her." Tristan straightened. "I know, but I don't care." His father nodded slowly. "And yet, she hasn't said a single word in her defense." "That's who she is. She believes that truth speaks louder than noise." His father studied him for a moment, and for the first time, he saw something soften behind those stern eyes. "Your mother says she's been helping the staff organize a scholarship fund for the children from Ohio." Tristan smiled faintly. "That sounds like her." The older man sighed, then said something Tristan would never forget. "Maybe I judged her too soon."
That weekend, the Hales hosted their annual charity gala, a grand affair where the city's elite gathered under chandeliers and champagne lights. It was Lily's first public appearance since the rumors began. Whispers followed her as she entered, dressed simply but elegantly, her hand resting gently in Tristan's. One socialite murmured, "That's her?" Another replied, "She doesn't even look like she belongs here." Lily heard them, every word, but she held her head high. When the time came for Tristan to give his speech, he walked up to the stage and paused, scanning the room full of powerful faces. "Every year," he began, "we talk about what it means to give, about charity, compassion, kindness. But for most of us, those are just words." He turned slightly toward Lily, his voice steady. "Until someone comes along and reminds us what those words really mean." The crowd fell silent. This foundation was built to change lives, but mine was changed by someone who didn't have billions, just a heart big enough to give without asking for anything in return. Her name is Lily Adams, and I am proud to call her the woman I love. The room erupted in quiet gasps and then unexpected applause. At one of the front tables, Tristan's mother wiped a tear from her eye. His father, too, was standing, clapping, slowly but sincerely. When Tristan stepped down from the stage, Lily was waiting. Her eyes glistened with emotion. "You didn't have to do that." He smiled. "I did. The world needed to see what real love looks like." After the gala, Tristan's father approached Lily. For a long moment, he said nothing, then extended his hand. "I was wrong," he said quietly. "Welcome to the family." Lily blinked back tears as she took his hand. In that simple gesture, every wall that had stood between them finally crumbled. Soft, hopeful tone. Months later, the Hales Foundation expanded its work, building schools in small towns just like Eastern Ohio. And leading many of those projects was Lily, now Mrs. Lily Hale, humble, radiant, and still painting murals wherever she went. As for Tristan Hale, he found what money could never buy. Not power, not fame, but peace. Because sometimes love doesn't arrive in grand gestures or perfect timing. Sometimes it finds you when you least expect it, in a dusty small town, with paint on your hands and hope in your heart. And when it does, you learn that home isn't a place, it's a person. And for Tristan Hale, that person was Lily. So, this story reminds us that real love doesn't always arrive in fancy places. Sometimes it finds us when we least expect it and teaches us who we truly are. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more inspiring tales of love, life, and family. Until next time, keep believing, keep loving, and keep living your story.